Hello, fiends, friends, and familiars. This is Matt Orozco here from Macabre Daily, and I'm joined today by Anthony Frith and Brandon Petrizzo, who are kind of both stars in their own rights, but are part of the film Mockbuster, which is Anthony's film. But Brendan, you are certainly one of the stars in it, and you yourself are a director and producer of Asylum films, just like Anthony becomes himself a director of Asylum films. So thank you so much for taking some time to speak with me.
No worries,
Of
thanks for having
course.
me. Well, us.
And for the convoluted intro I just gave you both. But I'd written down that you're both directors and producers and stars, but I didn't know how to put all together in the moment. But here we are. I had a ton of fun with Mockbuster. Hopefully, as much fun as Anthony you had making it, and Brendan you had supervising Anthony make it. Um, One of the first questions I had for you, Anthony, is just kind of to give a little of like how has your perception before going into this process of films like The Asylum, and not just the Asylum films, but films like it, right? Because it's part of a broader ecosystem of, you know, lower budget genre films. How has your perception of those films changed before you started this and to now, where you've not only, been a part of it, but made one yourself?
Yeah, I think the big thing is that you've just got kind of a lot more like sort of sympathy for these sort of films now. Like you know the inner workings of it, and you can see that everyone's trying to make something entertaining, right? Like no one's going out of their way to make something horrible, but there's always circumstances in the way that make a film, less than ideal. So you watch them and you're kind of like rooting for the filmmaker now,
Right.
and like you're still like laughing and having a good time, but you're like, yeah, when they get a shot that's like artistic or interesting. So yeah, I think that's kind of been the biggest sort of mindset change.
Understandable, because I think it's, I mean, when people hear 6 days of shooting, I think unless you have worked on a film set and particularly a feature film set before, 6 days is an insane amount of time to shoot a film movie, let alone, can do that as a formula. Brendan, I know that Anthony kind of went into this head first. How would you compare his first time directing as an asylum filmmaker compared to others, and even yourself? You've helmed a few of these films for the company as well. So how would you compare his first effort to others?
Well, I think that's a great question. Anthony, I think you and I have talked about this, about our different first times directing. And, you know, I would say I think mine was pretty wild because it was literally right after the COVID shutdown and everything started opening up. So it was like a very, very different world. Literally, it was like my film
Imagine.
was the test project of can we do this? So not only was it, can you direct a movie and deliver it, but it was also like, don't die.
Ah,
Have fun. So
be
I would
safe.
say, um, but no, I mean, that was Monster Hunters. But I think, with Anthony and, his first time, I think it was a pretty good experience. We had, I would say, a little more than ample prep time for, given these type of movies. And, Anthony knew exactly what he was doing. He was prepared. He had a shot list. I could list
A
all the
theoretical
directors
one.
on three. He had done a shot list for me. And I think only one was American. The other ones are all from elsewhere. So foreign directors are the best. Um, they really are. But yeah, I would say that, for doing land, it was a pretty straightforward, pretty simple process. Definitely much easier than, I think the one I had to do. But Anthony also had a lot of support in Australia. It was literally like he was like, I want all my friends involved, and everyone came and rallied. So it was a good experience.
I think that's the part that I took away the most from this, is that there is such a community that goes into getting a film made, and it's not just the production company, it's the people that you're closest with, your friends, your family, the ones that are really there to help you. And I love that you even showed that, not everyone gets along on these sets all the time. Like there has to be moments of tension. I think oftentimes that allows for more candor and creativity to happen when you can kind of have it out a little bit. And a good friend of Macabre Daily's, Mark Gottlieb, is someone who's worked for the Asylum before. And
Hmm.
so, we know firsthand kind of the work that goes into this is not just, I think it deserves far more accolades than it gets. And I'm glad that this film exists to do that. And, Anthony, now that you've been through this process, you've come out the other side, not just with one film, but two. Would this be something you'd recommend to other people to do as far as if they would want to be a filmmaker, they have this chance, should they take it?
Yeah, I wouldn't recommend making two at the same time because that was just the stupidest thing I'll ever do in my life. But yeah, I think so. I mean, I think it's like akin to the sort of like the Roger Corman school where you get thrown into the deep end, you get to make something, and you've got a credit and all these skills now. Like, you don't really know how to make a film until you've made a film, which is kind of like kind of the stupidity of the industry. But it's like you're not really prepared for what it takes until you've done it. I mean, even then, I don't know if I'm still, the next time I feel the same way if I ever get to make something again. But it's like those sort of skills you gain and the credit itself are so valuable that I think it is probably worth it, even if it is not, the most ideal way to make a film. But yeah, we'll persevere. Yeah,
I take that. I mean, I think that I take the slight hesitation only is just the authenticity of the answer, which is that like, yes, you should do this if you want to learn how to make movies. So if you want to be a filmmaker, like this is a great gauntlet to throw down for yourself. But I think at the same time, it almost feels like a great litmus test to determine, do you actually want to do this? Like, can you exist in a world where things change, where you are constantly being asked to shorten things or maybe change, like even the garage door scene still sticks with me as something that's like someone is going to notice this in the dailies and we're going to have to reshoot it, so we have to get a different background. Just that level of detail, which again is why you have somebody like Brendan on staff to be able to say like, hey, I know they're not going to like this. And Brendan, you've worked with so many filmmakers, not just being one yourself but also helping to line produce and produce for so many others. What would you say are kind of the top five traits you find to be, and I don't want to call them successful, just more just people that enjoy making Asylum films. What are the five traits you think they often have?
Well, I think the first thing is understanding the film, not just understanding story, but really understanding the genre, what you're making. When you step into directing an asylum feature, if you're given a shark movie at the end of the day, like you have to deliver an entertaining shark movie. What matters about that movie? It's the shark attacks. I hate to break it to you, but no one really cares about the melodrama and how there's a divorced couple that might get back together. No one cares. You want to make sure that you understand that. Sorry, my alarm just started going off. Um, but you also want to make sure that you have backup plans to the backup plans, because what you envision when you read the script is probably not going to happen on these films. Like sometimes they do, and I'm sure Anthony will tell you, like, there might be a few scenes in Land That Time Forgot that he was like, okay, we're going to do it like this, and it happened. But then, many other scenes you just have to kind of wing it. And you have to be able to kind of ebb and flow and roll with the punches. And also you have to be collaborative. I think it was mentioned in the documentary, if you fight the process, it's going to be worse. And I've seen many directors fight the process, and it is what it is. The movie will get done. The studio can take it and kind of essentially fix it on their own, and you'll never know. But you can always tell with those directors, they're a little more defeated. But with Anthony, he really rolled with the punches, and it was awesome. And you seem to enjoy kind of all of it, especially the costume approvals. But no, it's really just know what you're getting into. With Asylum, the art is the art of grindhouse filmmaking. We're not making a Scorsese movie here. You're making what inspired Scorsese. So, just have fun with that. And then eventually when you start, growing in your film career, then you can get a little more creative and a little more artsy. But right now it's just, using what you're given.
I think that's really sage advice, only because there is no matter where you start with filmmaking, it seems like there's always this propensity to kind of think you can do more than you actually can because you don't know what you don't know yet. And when you figure it out, like, oh, actually, we don't have enough budget to, create a 50-foot kaiju in my, backyard short film. Like that's you end up creating, I think, around what's available to you. And I think so much of what the Asylum films actually give more of is, do you feel like you're actually getting more than what this budget could actually allow for because of some of the things that we get to see in the film, like some of the sound stages you all have set up for some of these shots and the access to the resources and the people that know how to do this. So I think that all of that kind of goes into kind of helping a creator realize that, yeah, this is work. It doesn't have to be high art either, but you can have fun doing it. And I think that's what I took away is that, once Anthony realized that you don't have to make the world's best masterpiece that's ever been seen. You could just make a movie. Then it kind of you let yourself into the process more. And my last question for you both, one for you, Anthony, one for you, Brendan, is Anthony, for you, what's a lesson that you'd pass on to somebody who wants to become a filmmaker? And then Brendan, for you, what's a piece of advice for you that you'd pass on to someone who's going to make their first Asylum film, besides, some of the traits you described, but what's the first, most important piece of advice you give them? So Anthony, what about you?
Yeah. I think just asking has helped me. It's like because the worst that's gonna happen is they say no, right? So
Right?
you know, that's
That was
kind
the
of
most amazing.
stupid.
I mean, that was quite amazing, by the way. You just basically cold called yourself into a directing gig. Um, and there's a moment would be lying if I said there was a moment I said maybe I should reach out.
Yeah.
I've never made anything, but maybe I should shoot my shot.
Why
But
not?
but your movie made me ask for more questions. Let's put it that way. About you, Brendan, what would you? Someone's going into their first Asylum set. What's the number one thing they should not forget?
You're a work for hire. You work for a studio and you're there to deliver the film that they've sold. So if it's a dinosaur movie, you're here to make a dinosaur movie. You're not here to make Gone with the Wind. Go in there, make a really cool dinosaur film, and again, just roll with the punches and you'll have fun. Everything will be last minute. It's going to be crazy and it'll be over before you know it. But 3, 4 months later, you'll have a movie that's coming out. So it'll be worth it.
Absolutely. Well, I want to thank you both for the time and also just for the amazing documentary. It was such a breath
Thank
of
you.
fresh air to see not just how these films get made, but also so much love and attention into the process that I think most people don't get access to. We just don't know. So hopefully this does kind of, as you said, Anthony, bring more sympathy and empathy to filmmakers in this space. And Brendan, if everyone had a producer like you by them, I'm sure we would get a lot more done in the entertainment industry. So thank you for being diligent, organized, and having to deliver hard news in a really kind way. Um, so thank you both again. And for those watching, you can catch Mockbuster now on VOD in the US and in the UK. It'll be available on the 27th of July. Please watch this film. If you love movies like American Movie, things that really show you what it's like to actually make a film, not just how the end product. This is the film for you. So Anthony and Brendan, thank you so much for the time.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.